Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dr. M Health Corner Talk Show. Welcome. I'm Dr. Unati Makiwane, your host. Today we're coming with the real show. Last week we did a little bit of a trailer, and now today we're coming full force. Today I'm gonna introduce here shortly our topic. Today, as you can see, our topic is how to overcome mother wounds. You know, it's a topic that is very close to my heart because I'm a mother, and of course, I have a mother, and of course, I'm going to bring all these speakers to you to share their thoughts about their experiences and also what they see in the work they do. So, before I waste our time today, our topic is about how to overcome our mother wounds or how to overcome mother wounds. Next to me, to my right, I have Ehi Ademabo, who is a mindset surgeon. She goes by that. I love that, Ehi, by the way. She's there's a transformational life coach and, of course, mindset coach. And, of course, she works with people from all walks of life, executives, because I believe what she does, it's quite remarkable because everything we are today or how we're showing up to the world, it's basically how we were raised. So he helps people to overcome some issues they dealt with in childhood. And of course, next to her is also my lovely friend, Dr. Tommy Mitchell. She is also a colleague here, a mindset wellness coach who has over a decade experience in working with people. She's touched thousands and thousands of lives, touching them with mental health. I think all of us, if we didn't know that mental health matters, we know COVID-19 taught us. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I'm excited for this show, you guys. You know, today it's actually, let me rather say this month, as you can see my outfit, I'm more African this month. Actually, It's our heritage. Yes, it's our heritage month in South Africa. So I'm honoring my culture here. I'm loving it. How are you guys?
Love it.
Wow, doing good.
Yes. It's Friday. It's beautiful.
Of course. Thank you so much. I can see our viewers are right here. So you guys I know that last week we spoke a little bit about what a mother wound is. Probably Dr. Tommy, you want to take us back to what you shared last week? Some people missed it, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, so the mother wound has to do with the fact that our mothers are arguably the individual that we should have been closest to from the time of conception to childhood and adulthood. You know, a baby is born with the expectation that they'll be loved, cradled, listened to, appreciated, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes a child is born into a family where the mother, due to other health conditions, is not able to give the child what it needs. Or perhaps the mother grew up in a very dysfunctional childhood and her expression of love is very different than what the child perceives as love. And as a result, this can lead to a sense of loss in a child that somehow they weren't worthy of love, or just sadness when they see other mother-child relationships and other people that appear to be more loving and accepting than theirs. And that leads to the wound.
Wow, that's mouthful, Dr. Tommy. And we're going to unpack that. You know what? You deal with people from all walks of life. And I know specifically you are just about mindset growth. How do you, when you see your clients, what is the relationship between the way they show up to you, the way they perceive their businesses? Because I know that last week you spoke a bit about you go where everything started. Do you want to share with us here? What are your thoughts about that?
You speaking to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I thought you said Dr. Tommy. All right. So, you know, last week we started talking about the fact that there is nothing just happens. Nothing is random. When we look at a person, when I see a person act the way that they do, speak the way that they do, behave the way that they do, have the insecurities that they have, you know, just really have the thought processes and patterns that they have. I ask deeper questions. I want to know about their mother's beliefs. I want to know about their relationships with their mothers and of course their fathers, but more importantly, their mothers, because oftentimes, especially as women, we tend to take on our mother's beliefs. We tend to take on our mother's perspectives on life. We tend to absorb all of that subconsciously because that's been handed over to our mothers from their own mothers. And so, like someone, I think it was Dr. Tokpeo told me that said last week, you cannot give what you don't have. And what I have is what I'm going to give, right? So as a mother, I'm very, 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 very careful to not pass on my limiting beliefs to my son. And I'm very, very cautious to start identifying what part of this is a story I'm telling myself and what part is actually a fact, right? So just the ability to identify the fact that we are all we're all like living walking beliefs.
Yes.
And stories and narratives and paradigms. And if those are not serving you, it's time to change them. Now, what if those stories are stories that have been passed on to us from our mothers? It's very, very difficult to switch. You cannot just wake up and go, oh, I'm just going to suddenly start thinking this way. No, like Dr. Tommy said, arguably our mothers are the closest humans we have to us, like from fetus, from when we were non-existent to the way that we are. Most of the things that most of the way that we think has come from them, directly and indirectly. And this is why when you find a mother who's tolerated an abusive relationships, we think it's just, oh, well, she's enduring. Like in Africa, we like to say, oh, she doesn't want her home to be broken, so she's just going to endure for her children. And what we don't realize is that child is starting to learn that you're not good enough to be treated good. That child starts to learn that you're not worthy. That child starts to pick up subconsciously that maybe this is how I'm supposed to be treated. After I watch my mother, who is supposed to be my idol, my mentor, my all in all, get treated badly, then this is how it's meant to be. It's not even something we talk about. It's not something that's up for conversation or debate. It's something we subconsciously take on. And so when you see mothers transfer those aggressions to their children as a result of being in an abusive relationship or as a result of what their own parents have told them, it's time to stop there and go, where did you pick this up from?
Yes.
Is it really true that this child is dumb? Is it really true that this child is slow, right? And I think what started this conversation was you'd mentioned that a mother literally tore down her child right in front of you, and oh man, this sounds so abusive, but many parts of Africa that we come from, this is supposed to be the definition of discipline. This is supposed to be the expression of love. This is supposed to be, I love you, so I'm going to talk down on you. I love you, so I'm going to compare you with your peers. I love you, so I'm going to be condescending. Yeah. And because this is all that we know, this is all that has been passed on to them from our grandmothers. This is all that we know to give. And so if we don't stop the madness and go, no. I remember, and I hope I'm not being this, going far here. But I remember I have a son who's on the autism spectrum, and I remember my husband's older aunt had come to stay with us for a couple of months, and she was fighting with me for not beating up my son. And she was saying, you ought to beat him more. You ought to beat him. And this is me that didn't even know that he was on the spectrum. He was barely 18 months old. And she was fighting with me for not beating him up. But something in me, my motherly instinct just said to me, he's not choosing to do this. Yes. I know that he's not choosing to do this. And this is where we have to be advocates for our children. Because if you're not advocating for your children, then the world and society will tell you what to do and what not to do. And somehow I just had this motherly instinct. This was my first time being a mom. I still have one. But I just knew that he's not choosing to not listen to me. He's not choosing to not respond when I call his name. He's not choosing this. There's something in the way that his brain is wired that's causing him to do this. And she would bit and bit and bit. And eventually we started clashing because I'm like, no, you are not going to lift up your hand on him again. Don't do it. And I remember it being this huge issue, this big debate about, oh, you're spoiling him and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yes, it's fine. And then come to find out 2-3 years down the road that he was actually on the spectrum. So imagine if I didn't advocate for him, I would be the greatest loser. I would be the one who my son will look back on later on and go, oh, my mom joined other people to beat us.
You know what, Ehi?
Wow.
So blessed
Powerful.
to have you, because I see how you nurture your boy. It's beautiful, by the way. I love the cards. You also use your affirmations. And parents here, if they're interested, check his affirmation cards. You know what? You mentioning something about that growth, like by the time he was 2, probably 3 years old. You know what? According to sociology or psychology, self-esteem is built by the age 3 to 5. A child knows who he is, knows who she is. So, like you said, if us as advocates, their mothers or their fathers or whoever is a caregiver placed in this child's life is not advocating like you did, kudos to you. This is the time we injure them. This is the time they start interpreting the world around them, that the world is cruel. People are cruel. People are not fair. So I'll be calm. And like you said in your speech, that some kids, they believe that they are dumb. Like, it's because whoever was placed in that child's life spoke those words to that child. Or even, I go to an extent of looking at the teachers we send our kids to. I look at the coaches we send our children to. The dance classes we send our kids to. One time, I remember my son was probably 2.5 years old, and I sent him to this daycare, and the lady, when she was disciplining the kids, she would use the BAD word. I've always used as BAD, like when I use this terminology, and I don't use it in humans. And let alone to use it on my kid. He comes back, whenever I pick him up, I will play with him, and he's kind of morose and he's sad. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "No, my teacher said I'm bad." I said, "Oh, what happened?" The next day, when I spoke to her, the kids were not listening. Oh, the kids were bad. I said, don't ever use that terminology to my son, to your kids, and the kids that come here. Because words create. Kids, their brains are not developed, right, Dr. Tommy?
Exactly.
Tell us, how long does it take to mature that brain to believe all these stories? Because reality is, he deals with people that are successful. When we say they are successful in terms of meritocracy, but they don't believe they are a success. So when do we believe these stories in our childhood and say, okay, yeah, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm bad? Because we do see people, it doesn't matter how successful we look at them outside, but they do believe that they're not anything in this world.
Yes. Our brains actually fully develop around 26, 27.
Right.
And the most critical development stages arguably is like 9 and below, but really the first 3 years of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is so critical. And that's the stages the child is typically at home more, and not in school, maybe in daycare, but still they're more at home. So parents, caregivers, you have the biggest impact on your child. It's not the school, it's you.
No.
It's
No.
you. They're watching you. Don't do do as I say, not what I do. Model good behavior. Instead of barking orders, why don't you have your child join you in doing something? They want to be part of a community. They want to feel like they belong and be appreciated. Be careful with the way you speak to your children. Each child is different. Some kids are more sensitive, and this is for boys too. And I think boys get the short end of the stick because they're told not to cry. You're a boy. Why are you crying? You're a sissy. That is so harmful, because it's the same boys that turn out to be partners who don't pay attention to their partner's emotions, who are now told that they're insensitive, that they're mean, that they're a jerk. Okay? Yeah. So we need to train them to be aware of their feelings, be able to express it without fear of repercussions. Because a lot in African culture, I can speak to it because I'm African, how dare you ask me a question? How dare you say that? Are you an idiot? Like, you know how it goes? You're stupid. Like, you are a disgrace. Like,
Right.
that's the terms that we see, and we see them in Nigerian movies. Even myself, who didn't grow up there, I see it and I can joke and jest about it because it's the truth. It's so common.
Yes.
And then when the child is transplanted to a culture, especially when they're raised here, that people tend to be more mindful of their words and more showing affection by hugs and kisses and words, they start wondering, okay, what's wrong with my family? Right? They see that their friends.
Dr. Tommy, it's happening in our cultures back home, because the reality is we are also mindful of better education for our kids. So I do hear this from friends and colleagues back home, where now kids are going to multiracial schools. This affection is showed And it's not
It's
only this
huge.
side of the world.
It's
Yes.
huge.
Yeah.
So if we're not mindful, yes, we're gonna damage them. And I do want our parents not to feel bad how they show their affection to us, you know. And I mean, a child is very sensitive and is also kids are angelic. They can pick it up if a parent is loving, even without a hug.
Yes.
Ideally, we want parents to hug their kids, to kiss them.
Yes.
Boys and girls, you know, boys and girls. So tell me, hey, I'm gonna come to you here. In the business you do, I see you deal with whole lot. What has been the connection between childhood and the success of people's businesses?
It's
I'm
huge.
interested to know that.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, Dr. Nats. It's huge because, as you can imagine, imagine a child who's grown up in an environment where he's constantly affirmed, where he's constantly told you're doing a great job, where he's constantly complimented, where there's a lot of attention on his strengths and there's less attention on, oh, you're not good at that. Because what do we like to do in society? We like to tell people to work on their weaknesses. When you see a person who has a healthy self-esteem, who comes to you and who's able to take feedback, who's able to say, you know what, I can work on XYZ. You know that they were not wounded. At the same time, when you see a person whom you're trying to affirm, you're trying to get back into the root, you're trying to ask simple questions about their past, and they break down before you even go past the second or third question, because these are wounds that have been tucked in, that are lying under the carpet. We have never had the conversation before to say, why am I the way that I am? Why is my family the way that it is? Why did my mother treat my father? Or why did my father treat my mother? Or why did my parents split up? Or why didn't we, why wasn't I loved the way Jimmy's parents were loved your children? We never have those conversations. So sometimes, for the first time, people start having conversations that should have been had when they were 5 and 6. They start having those conversations as adults. And you see people break down because of these wounds that we're talking about. And it's just so much harder. It's so much harder to help a person believe in themselves when they have like mountain loads of things to catch up on. It's like, where do we start from? Do we start from when I was 7? Think about it. Where do we start from?
Yes. Actually, you know what? Yes, we have to start there. I love the fact that you go back to those stories, because that's where we create these stories and believe them.
Yes.
Right? That's where we do. Because, one time, one of the scientists I watched, he said, kids, they watching. Dr. Toby just said it. That first 3 years, they are watching. They are sponges. They are taking whatever is done in front of them. And unfortunately, we deal today with gender-based violence, with people that are staying in toxic relationships. Let's talk about that. How do we help or move forward people that are staying? And I would like our viewers not to judge these people, because there's a story behind that staying. Someone tolerating an abusive partner, or a partner that is emotionally unavailable, or friends or business partners that are not committing to anything. Let's talk about that, because it's not only just, it ends with our own immediate families. This expands to how we relate with the world.
Wow.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And because we're all, I love that you talked about it extends to the way that we relate with the world, because, a lot of us are, I don't know, because we have these wounds, a person can say we're triggered.
Yes.
We can, you can just have a basic conversation about money, and money, we know that money's not wrong, it's not right, it's not bad, it's not evil. It just takes on the personality, or, the personality amplifies, or money amplifies the personality of the person, right? But you can walk into your room and start talking about money, and you hear a person get up and go, no, this is all we talk about. Why are we always talking about, and they don't even realize that their limited beliefs are showing. 35 years of crap is showing. 40, because these things they're not hiding. They're not hiding. So it's one of those things where if you don't deal with it, it's going to announce you later. Do the work. Don't be lazy about it. Most importantly, don't pass on the crap to the kids. And don't take on whatever society you're in, like the Canadian society says this, the South African or Nigerian society. No. Have your own personal compass, your own morals and your beliefs, and pass those on to them. Don't depend on the society that you're in to help you train your child. Dr. Nancy, I think this is the biggest thing with parents.
Yes.
They tell you, oh, they'll teach them that at Bible study. Oh, they'll teach them that at school. No, it's not anybody's responsibility to do for your child what you should be doing.
Yes.
It is our job as parents, and I think this doesn't get talked about a lot, and I'm not sure why, because we are a society that likes to relegate responsibility to other people. Oh, let the school do it. Oh, they're in school from 9 to 5. Great. I just need to come home and give them dinner and go to bed, or let's just get rid of them. No. Personal development. I wish my parents started personal development with me when my brain was 3, 2. Yes. Because our brains are active, our minds are active. We're like a sponge. We take on everything so good at that age. It's not when you're 35, someone starts to tell you about toxic relationships. You're like, oh, that's you. There was a pattern. How come I'm always in a toxic relationship? And it's like it's possible, but it's harder to do the work then. Versus telling the child then that you're whole, you're complete, you're enough, you're worthy, you're good enough, you deserve the best. And not just saying those things, because people think affirmations are just going to fix everything. It's not just affirming them, but actualizing it, exemplifying it. When they do something that you know that they've done right, you applaud them in the moment. You don't wait till evening time to go, you did it right. No, you applaud them in the moment, so your brain has a recollection between their actions and the things that you're saying to them. It is so important.
I love it. You know what? Actually, I'm reading this beautiful book. It's not showing there. It says How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole Lipera. She's a psychologist, and she actually did her own work herself. She said, I grew up very anxious, depressed. I could not really recognize what was wrong with me. And of course, lots of wounds there from where she grew up. And she said, this affected my relationships. I was literally absent emotionally in the relationships I was in. And because of that absence, she would literally blame the partners for being absent, because she didn't realize that she was the one who was distant, who was not giving herself completely to the partner. And what would happen next? Resentment. She would resent the partners. You're not there for me. You're not loving. And she realized, pattern by pattern, I am attracting all these people that are like me. So like you're saying, how we mimic things, how we do things, our kids look at us is very important. Because I know that coming from our African culture, we have to teach ourselves. Not all African parents don't use that affection with themselves, but a lot of it comes from a cultural perspective. Not like they are not loving to each other.
That's right.
But us, now our generation of parents, we have to be intentional. We have to be mindful about showing this affection. Because again, like I said, we are in a society where we are very multicultural. Your child could easily think that there's something wrong with my family.
Yes.
My parents are not showing any affection. And it's the way we speak. You know, we need to be mindful, even the way we speak to our spouses, how our daughters listen to us speaking to their dads, how our sons listen to us speaking to their dads, and vice versa. Dr. Tommy, you want to say something, sis?
No, I just, a conversation between me and my now 4-year-old daughter just came to mind. She said, Mommy, why do you kiss Daddy on the lips? And you know what? That melted my heart, because I'm like, okay, that's good, right?
Yeah.
They're watching.
They're watching,
right? So
and you're building a template for what they allow and disallow in your adult relationships, right? Because I know my father was not very expressive. The way he showed love was to spend all this money, but I never heard him for 1 second telling me that he loved me. I don't know. I don't remember hearing it anyways. And and I had to be intentional and deliberate, even in my marriage, to say, you know what, it's okay to receive love. It's okay to be loved. It's okay to be, I had to do that work on myself, because I never heard it one moment it being said to me, but he'll tell you, I love you. If I didn't love you, why would I spend all this money on you?
I know, right?
And that was their own way of expressing it. And like you're saying, we have to do better, because when we know better, we do better, right? When we know better, we do better. And just being intentional with creating that time to foster those relationships, because all day, every day, our kids are out, they're picking up different things from all the families. And then you want them to see the home as this grounding point, this point where they can come and go, okay, let's come back home. Let's come back to what's really right. Let's come back to how we do things. So when they go out, they can be the light that shines to other people and not just taking on other people's crap from everywhere. Because you can do all this work on yourself, but if you don't teach them that stronghold, they're going to go and drop the work that you've done and pick up other people's crap, right?
Yes.
So I'm very, very intentional with my son. I'm very intentional with the words that I say to him. I'm very careful. Sometimes I don't always get it right, but I'm very, very careful to not compare, to not say, oh, look at this person is doing this at your age. You should be doing it. And I tell him, you're perfect. Even when he wants to knock him, I'm like, no, you're perfect. You're exactly where you need to be. And that's not to say we don't do the work. That's not to say we don't scold when necessary. No. But just that conscious awareness of knowing that this boy's feelings matter, which we didn't have in the 80s growing up. Like nobody cared about our feelings. It's like, feelings? What's that?
So what?
What is that? You're failing in school. Look at this Mr. Joe's children. He's doing this and doing that. You are failing. We didn't realize where that was going to. And now you see broken adults everywhere comparing themselves with other people on the gram, never feeling enough, never feeling adequate, never feeling worthy because of these words that have been spoken to us.
Yes.
So yeah.
Talk of not feeling enough, not to criticize women who change even the way they look, right? One time I was listening to this interview in South Africa. This celebrity was interviewed, and it was not the motherhood that affected the way she perceives herself. She said her dad, it was never enough. When she came home with an 80%, he would say, why didn't you come up with 100%? Like everything she did was never good enough.
Yeah.
This girl, now she's doing well for herself. She's out there hustling, but she continuously changes the image. And she said, I'm not going to stop till I feel I'm good enough. It's so sad because she's such a good-looking woman, but she feels she's not enough.
Yes.
So like you're saying, like it's very important that whatever we say to our kids, we have to be mindful. And we're not always getting it right, because we come from a place where just to criticize was normal. It's normalized because like you're saying, this is how I'm going to discipline you, right? Let's talk about the single parents. Mothers are amazing. And there's mothers here who are watching us who are not having that father figure for their daughters or for their sons. What is your advice for those women to get it right so that they can send them to the world?
Yeah, I just want to say single parenting is extremely challenging. And those of you who are on that journey, kudos to you. I've had my taste of it because my husband works away. So I'm home 90% of the time by myself. And it's hard. Yeah. So I just want to recognize that, it takes a village to raise a child. My suggestion is find your community, right? Find those who say, let me know if you need help, and hold them accountable to it. Don't let them say that fluffy, let's do coffee, let me know if you need anything, and don't ever ask them. No, ask them. Then you'll really find out if they're real. And if you have an older cousin or a brother or somebody who can be a male role model in that child's life, that's all that matters. Yes. And really have that conversation with that person. Be like, look, please, I need you to do this for my child and commit to being there for Johnny or whatever your child's name is. Because your model is going to help children that they are valuable too. I can only do so much as a mother. And it's the truth. You cannot be everything to that child. I'm a believer that the child needs both the masculine and the feminine. Yes. It's just the reality. So, find a role model. Find someone in your community. Find someone in your church.
I agree.
Make it a commitment.
I agree. And in addition to doing that, make sure that you have specific, measurable things that you're working on. It's not just, let Johnny go and be mentored. What are we mentoring him on? Is it his self-confidence? Is it his personal appearance? Is it his ability to express himself? Is it his ability to not mask his emotions? with anger, because you know what they say, men mask your emotions with anger and women mask your anger with emotions, because men are taught to not express themselves and express the other wide range of emotions. So they use anger to mask up all the other emotions, and women are taught to not be so angry, so they use emotions to mask up anger, you know. so have
Go
some
ahead.
sort of specific measurable things that you're working on. By the end of December, he will give a presentation. By the end of this, he'll be able to express this, you know. So not just, oh, Johnny, go ahead and be mentored. No, it takes a lot of work. And just like Dr. Toomey said, it's a lot of work, even for children growing up with two parents in two-parent households. It's a lot of work. So single parent homes, first off, you need God's grace, and then you need to be intentional.
Yes.
You need to be deliberate. Just like Dr. Toomey, my husband is always traveling and always away. So many times I feel like I'm doing it by myself too. So I have a little taste of it. And even that is not the same, because somehow you know he's there. But in single parent homes, they're just not there, either because of death or separation or divorce or whatever the situation is. It's tough. It's challenging. But take it one step at a time, and don't wait for it to be perfect. One of the things I've said to myself now, before I would wait for it to have a specific, 6 to 7, we get to do our affirmations. And these days I just realized it's not working that way. You know, maybe my son wants to go to bed earlier, he wants to go to bed later, or there's something going on and it's just not quite working out. So now I take every opportunity. Yes. During meal times, we do affirmations. During bath times, we do personal development. During shopping times, what decision are you making now? Why are you making this decision? Is this the decision that you want to make? I make him very, very responsible for those things. He understands what a decision is and what the consequences of that decision. So don't, if you don't have, because a lot of single parents will tell you, a lot of parents generally will tell you, we don't have the time. And I get that. But I'm saying you can sneak it into other times of whenever you're driving to the mall. Let's talk about why we need to buy you McDonald's. Do you know that mommy has to earn that money, that $5 to buy you McDonald's? Okay. Do you know what you need to do to earn $5 now? I have personal development conversations about everything, because I just cannot afford the luxury of, let's do it from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. I may be tired. I may have a meeting. I may have something that comes up. So make it make it a lifestyle. It's not a thing that we do and we try to sneak it into our routine. It's a lifestyle.
Yes, I love it. I wanted to add to what Dr. Toomey was saying about finding that mentor, and we also need to be mindful those type of mentors we bring to our kids. This man or this woman, if you are raising a child as a father, what principles do they abide with, right? What values these people have? Do you identify with those values, those principles? What is the track record of this person, himself or herself? Does she has a child, to see how he has or she has modeled that? Because we can't run away from the fact that some parents, out of being trust, they trust people, and then they send their child to a person who's abusive, who could actually molest the child sexually and emotionally. These things happen. And sometimes they happen right under your nose with your family member. How much more for someone from outside? So also in the midst of looking for that model, and I always advise people, look for someone you don't have a romantic relationship with, because you also want continuity for your child. You also want that consistency for your child, because again, there's also already the father or the mother who's not here. Because some parents, like we said, some mothers, because of their backgrounds, we see it in our practice, we find kids brought in by a relative. Mother is nowhere to be found and probably stuck with drugs because of her own childhood trauma she has not dealt with. So we need to be very mindful who we bring to our kids' lives. Guys, we're going to wrap up soon here. Now, I would like you guys to share your thoughts about, now we have an adult whom everything happened, where to start. I know that, Ehi, you said you don't know where to start, 7, 5 years old. How do people unpack this? Because a lot of times, because of trauma, we know that people become numb. They don't know where to start. And then it's easy for them to give up and feel, you know what, I'm not going to do this. Where do you start? Now you had all these mother wounds. Your mother was not there. Your caregiver didn't show up for you. Where do you? And also, I would like you guys to touch on the part of forgiveness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Toomey, take it.
Oh, sure. I typically start at the earliest childhood memory. And then when we talk about it, they often go, oh yeah, I remember a little earlier. And because you know what, we create little walls mentally to block out the hurt. So we talk about how you felt when what you saw around you, what you know, interpreted, etc., etc. So we really go into that. And majority of people have a mother wound, whether it's a big trauma or a little trauma, it's there. Okay, so and you could have two kids that grew up in the same family and totally different perspective about their reality.
Yes.
So remember that. So that's really where we start.
Yeah. So in addition to what Dr. Timmy said, starting from the earliest childhood memory is great. That's amazing. And also just starting where you are. I know it's overwhelming. Even thinking about it is like, oh my God, this is daunting. I have too much drama. I have mommy baggage. I have daddy baggage. I was raped as a child. I was abused. I was molested. I was thrown out. I dropped out of school. So, you know, when there's a lot of baggage, it can seem overwhelming. But I just want to say this to anyone who's listening. It's all connected. I find that when we start to deal with one issue, we think, oh my God, it's going to take me 30 years to get through all my issues. No, it's like a clogged pipe. When my clients come to me and they say things like, oh, business isn't working. Oh, all this money that people are finding, where do they get the clients? Where do the people get this client? And we start really getting into worthiness. We start talking about money. We start talking about what's your understanding of money. Now, you may think that money has nothing to do with these things that we're talking about. It's connected. It's connected because money is just currency. Money is just currency, but beneath money is feelings. It's heavy emotional stuff that we've dealt with growing up. Beneath all of that is worthiness. It's what you're deserving and worthy of. It's what you've allowed yourself the permission to have. Now, all of that template, you can literally substitute, copy and paste it, and put it in a relationship.
Right.
Because the way that our brains think about it is, oh, if I'm good enough for a whole lot of wealth and to afford all those things, I'm good enough for a man who doesn't treat me wrong, who treats me. I actually had a client yesterday say to me that she doesn't think that this relationship that she's in is going to lead anywhere. When we started talking about it, we realized that she thought that he was too good for her, and she was waiting. She's waiting now. She's still on a time bomb, waiting for something to go wrong because he's doing all the right things. And she's like, when is it going to come out? When am I going to hear that you have 10 children somewhere? When am I going to hear that you have 2 wives? When am I going to hear? And I'm like, why are you thinking that way? And she goes, oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. Now, so she said she's self-sabotaging this thing and she doesn't even realize it. Well, until I stepped up, thank God. But anyways, but what I'm saying is it's all connected. It's like parallel, but they're joined together. If you're having issues in relationships, I guarantee you it's the same underlying principles that apply to money. It's the same underlying principles that apply to self-esteem and confidence. It's almost the same underlying principles that apply to your self-image, the way that you think and perceive yourself. So don't think of the work as daunting, overwhelming. Oh my God, where do I go from here? Just start with one little piece, and one day you're gonna wake up and it's all gonna go boom, boom. Why? Because the clogged pipe is freed. Everything is just going to flow. It's not going to take you 30 years like you think. It's not going to take you 3 years. Matter of fact, this work we're talking about may take you 90 days because it is all connected.
Yes.
And just like
I love it.
Said, starting with the early childhood stories, you start to unpack things. Why do I think the way that I think? Oh, is it because I think about this in my relationships that I've transferred it over to money, and I've transferred it over to business, and I've transferred it over to my platonic relationships? And yes, it is. It's all connected.
Yes.
Yes. Talk of sabotage. You know, we see people sometimes even sabotaging a relationship that is going well. Like you were saying, when is it gonna cheat on me? I mean, I come from South Africa where I've seen women, if the man is not beating them up, then he doesn't love them enough. And now when you unpack their story, it simply means that her mother, she as a little girl, watched her mother being beat up by her dad. So for her, expression of love comes with force, comes with violence. And today we deal with gender-based violence. And not only men, I see men share about how violent their partners are. Women who are coming from dysfunctional families. So all it is you guys are sharing here is going back to the concept of reparenting that inner child, Dr. Tommy, you talked about last week, right? We need to go back there. And I think the element of also looking back at how the mothers did the work, we need to give them grace. Last week, Dr. Tope mentioned something powerful there. Mothers can never give anything they don't have. So if you are listening, we are watching here, give your mothers grace, because any mother who was not, or you felt, or I mean, as a child, there was no presence of loving mother in your life. Something didn't go right in her own life. Like she said, her mother was in a situation where there was polygamy, there was domestic violence. She didn't have time for these 8 kids she had. She didn't have time to hug and tell them she loved them. So a lot of times these mothers are coming from a place of pain. So I'm challenging each one of you here watching. If you have a situation like that, you felt your mother never loved you, you felt your mother was never there for you, you felt her negative thorns on you, it's time to reconsider that relationship and look at her deeply. Where did she come from? What background, your mother, your aunt, whoever looked after you, where was she? Where did she come from? Or maybe you were put in placement. Maybe you were in an orphanage home. Probably your parents, they had you when they were teenagers. We do see all these things, not only in our culture, we see it even here. We have actually seen young mothers putting their kids to orphanage homes because they are incapable to look after them. So we need to give grace to these mothers. So the part of forgiveness, it takes time. It takes time. I've seen some of my friends even writing letters to their parents and sharing what's in their hearts. Because if maybe you're gonna go to approach a mother who probably still has no insight, because you have to be an awakened person to realize the hurt you caused to your child. So some parents are still defensive, coming from that place of hurt themselves. So I find people, when they write those letters and pour their hearts, or whichever way that would work for you, and also finding those mentors, people that you look up to that could mediate those meetings if you have to go for that meeting. Guys, as we wrap, I would like, Ehi, do you want to share how to people to find you? I can say that, but I would like it to come from you. And of course, you, Dr. Toby, as we close up.
Absolutely. Before we even share that, as you were speaking, I was just like, it's a lot of work, and be committed to the work. You spoke about forgiveness, and I think that's so big. Not just forgiving our parents, but forgiving ourselves. Like, so many people tell you, I should be farther along by now. Well, what's informing that thought? What's informing the thought that you should be farther along? There's a lot of people that are in worse places. There's a lot of people that are in prison and jails and all this, other places. So I think before we start to plan where we're going, point B, acknowledge where you are, be okay with where you are, and know that you're exactly where you need to be, give thanks for that, and release. So not just forgiving our parents, but forgiving ourselves for not giving us the permission to have the things that we desire. And the minute you do that, you start to find that the work becomes easier, because now you're letting go of the past, right? Yeah, so where can people find me? You can find me on social media. I am 𝐒𝐞𝐩𝐿 on all social media platforms. I would highly recommend, if you're a parent listening to this, grab one of these. I don't know if you can see it. Grab one of these. I have them for different age groups. I have Bible cards. I have children affirmation cards and teenage affirmation cards. Grab them. They're only $30. It's such an investment that everybody should be. There's about 30 of them in a pack. So there's one for each day. There is no excuses. There's a coaching activity and there's an affirmation. Because like I said, it's not just an affirmation that's going to fix all the mess that we're in. There's actually, what do we need to do now? Let's discuss. And it builds that bond. So please grab one of those. And yeah, you can reach out to me on social media, 𝐒𝐞𝐩𝐿, or my website, I'm 𝐒𝐞𝐩𝐿.com. Such a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, Dr. Nati. I appreciate it.
Loved it. I'm writing down actually how to find you. And Dr. Tomi?
Yeah, so you can reach me again, social media. At Instagram, it's mental wellness coach _. So at mental wellness coach. Twitter, Dr. Tomi Mitchell. LinkedIn, Dr. Tomi Mitchell, TOMI Mitchell, 2 L's. Facebook, Dr. Tomi Mitchell, actually Dr. Mitchell HWS, which is Holistic Wellness Strategies, which is the official name of my business. And then the website, www.holistic, that's with an H, wellnessstrategies.com. Holistic Wellness Strategies. If you search my name in Google, you'll find me. So that's another route too.
You ladies were just phenomenal. Thank you so much. Actually, I just wrote down all your handles here. And to our viewers, thank you so much. I see you are still on here. I honestly think we need to have a part 2 and bring a dad. We need to have father wounds, because fathers have the same impact when they are present or absent in our lives. they have that impact. You know, the way we see the world, it's the same as women. And again, to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Really enjoyed this discussion. And again, it is my desire to see you at peace with everything that happened to you. We don't choose our backgrounds, we don't choose our parents, but everything that happens to us, whatever trauma you went through as a child, make it your post-traumatic success. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes if you believe in God or whoever you believe in, these things, he allows them to happen to us to make us resilient, to show up to this world and be the success to other people. So share your stories too. The best thing you can ever do is share your story. You'll never know how much impact you have to people that are going through same stuff. And also give yourself grace. Give yourself, and you know, he mentioned self-forgiveness. Give yourself grace. There's no one imperfect. Actually, I was supposed to wear my t-shirt that says Flossom. I am Flossom. Whatever happened to me as a child, I love me. I love my mother. You know, even at the time, she was not seeming as a perfect mother I wanted, but I know she loved me and we have a really nice relationship, right? You know, there were times as a single parent, I would be like, where is my father? You know, but as you grow up, you realize that your mother protected you from things that were toxic that could have happened to you. So these are the things that when you start having these conversations with your mothers, you could actually come from a place of grace and also appreciating the wounds this mother or this woman went through without necessarily sharing to you. And of course, you appreciate how she showed up to the world. So as we close, guys, thank you so much. Next week, we're coming back with part 2 of gender-based violence because it's also part of this. So as we go through this journey of life, it is my desire to see us succeed and be better parents to the kids that are placed in our lives, because as the ladies said here, they have the template we give them. So we have to be mindful of the templates we will send out these kids with, because how they show up to the world, they are basically mimicking, they are mirroring what we are in our homes.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you so much, ladies. I would love to bring you back. And of course, lovely weekend for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.